Hey folks, welcome to the Wrench Turners podcast, a show that's about improving the life, well-being, and productivity of mechanics everywhere. I'm your host, Mr. Joshua Taylor, founder and CEO of Wrench Turners Online. Today, we get to talk with an individual not from this time zone, Anna from Latvia, a mechanic who has jumped through hurdles in her career in the industry, and we get to hear about it. Because today we talk about mechanic as a second language, overcoming the traditional stereotypes, and creating your own path. Let's get into it. So, Anna, tell us about yourself. How did you get into automotive?
So, my name is Anna. I'm currently 33 years old. I'm living in Riga. That's the capital city of Latvia. That's a European country. And I got into car mechanics absolutely by accident on one hand, and absolutely by, I don't know, destiny or whatever on the other hand.
I like
So
that, destiny.
since childhood, I always liked to do things with my grandfather. Things considered not considered to be things that girls would like, but I enjoyed that more than spending my time with my grandmother. So, building greenhouses, sheds, fixing cars, nailing something, going fishing, and other things, I enjoyed them a lot more. And the part I enjoyed the most was taking care of our first car in the family. That was Opel, and I can't recall whether it was Opel Rekord or Opel Kadett. So I don't really remember, but it was in an orange color, and it didn't had a steering wheel. How to say? The part that makes steering the wheel more easier. So it didn't have that part. So
Oh, it
hold
didn't
on,
have
I
power
will.
steering.
Yes, so it didn't have power steering, and I was. So my grandfather sat me by that car when I was 7 years old, and my mom told me that I have to learn how to drive, because so okay, couple of steps back. So I am born in a city. I was raised in a city, but when it's the summer break, I went to the countryside to my grandparents. And back then, my family didn't have a mobile phone, but we had a car.
Mhm.
And there was once a situation when my grandfather had some issues with his heart. And the thing is that we can't call the ambulance and we can't go to it because the only driver is my grandfather, and my grandmother couldn't drive. So my mom told me, you have to learn how to drive. And so I was 7 years old. I was quite a tall girl, and I learned how to drive that car without the power steering, and it was
Oh
funny.
my.
I enjoyed it a lot. I loved it a lot, and since I loved that car so much, I loved helping my grandfather doing simple maintenance works. So the oil changes, filter changes, you name it, I was doing it. And well, I lived with this love until I was 20-ish something, when I met my now husband, who is a bit younger than I am. But I was having my own car. But as I was working in a city center, I didn't have to use the car to get to work, and it was more parked than driven. And so my back then boyfriend started using my
Hmm.
car, and he was breaking it quite a lot. And I was the one paying for and I was the one paying for the
Okay.
fixes. And
Mm.
one day I said, enough is enough. Let's try to do something on our own. And so we started with changing the drive shaft of my Peugeot 106 in the drive yard. And I have to mention that we don't live in Latvia as you do in private properties, in private homes. We live in flat apartments, so in an apartment house. So
Uh-huh.
imagine us repairing the car in between all the houses and all the people leaning outside their windows and thinking, "What the hell are you doing there, guys?" But
That's awesome.
actually this is how it started. So we started working on my Peugeot. And well, the works came on and on, meaning that it got more difficult and difficult, and the other things need to be repaired and changed. And then my husband decided to move in and rent a garage with his friend. So that was a little garage. The ceiling is like something like 4 meters. The width could be like 3 to 4 meters, and depth of the garage not more than 8 meters. So it's a really small garage, basically used for just parking the car. So it's not rained over, snowed over, or things like that. But we started doing the repairs over there
And just a quick
very fast.
aside here for anybody that doesn't understand the metric system, 4 meters is like 13 feet.
Okay, so yeah, please do the conversions because I don't do calculations or math anything in feet or
I
not the
I
metric
don't do
system.
I don't do them in my head either. I had to do a quick Google change because I wasn't sure. Even though we're here we're in the metric system here too in Canada, most things, even though there's very conversive, like most of our packaging is English and French, and so on and so forth. Most of our packaging is in metric, so milliliters or whatever, not ounces. But
Okay, okay.
the measuring devices of sorts, like measuring tapes, we still do just about everything in feet. So my brain is still calculated. Like I understand, like it's a 6'6", as a 6'6" door. It's not a. I have no idea what the metric conversion is. I think that's roughly 2 meters, give or take. So my brain doesn't immediately understand. It's like 4 meters. That's a really big. Oh, it's 13 feet. That's not that bad. That's not that bad. Okay, now I understand. That's just a standard stop shot. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
back
that was a
now that I've
very
taken over
small
that a
room.
little bit, let's back to your story. You're fixing stuff between apartment buildings
Yes,
outside,
yes.
right?
So
With everybody
and then
gawking at you, trying to figure out what's going on.
yes. So then we moved to the little place. So the little I actually should call it a room, but because that was the room. Because the room I'm sitting in right now, in the shop we're running now, is larger than that room where we did the first car fixes, actually.
That's
But in
crazy.
any case, yeah, but in any case, so we started by fixing our own cars. My family had 3 cars, mine included. My mom, my dad, and me. All of us have a car. Then my husband bought a car, and his friend has a car. So we started to taking care of the cars we had in our possession, in our
Mm.
family. And then when we understood that that little room is too small to do all the things we want to do, because my husband he does welding and he's an excellent welder, so that couldn't be done there, and we had to look for another place. For some fortunate reasons, we found the garage. We moved in and we were there for something like 5 years. It, it had great ceiling. It was like 6 to 7 meters, so you can do the
Wow,
conversions.
big.
And it had 250 square meters, the area.
Wow. That's not a small. That's not small at all.
That's not small at
That's
all.
and let me do the conversion for my brain too. I know it's yeah, that's a 2,700 square foot shop. That's not small at all. Nice,
But
nice.
we still consider that as a garage because despite the fact that it was my husband and his friend who were doing the maintenance for our own cars, we started to hold on. And now I'm looking up for the word. Okay, so we started to service friends' cars, friends' cars, so
Mm-hmm.
acquaintances. but that still was more considered as a hobby because, well, we were still doing our day jobs, and that was, well, still a hobbyish thing. So if we had a car, we went to a garage and we did the things we needed to do. But last year, everything changed. We actually couldn't get along with my husband's friend anymore because we have very different work ethics. I like that everything is in place. I like to do things clean, nice. Everything has to be shiny, nice smelling, and well, you get the
Mm,
idea.
I
And
I get the
uh, and
idea.
uh, yeah, and our friend was a very messy guy. He left things all over the place. If oil spilled somewhere, the spill could stay there for a week or even more. And I was fed up with cleaning the things all the time. So I turned more into a cleaning lady rather than a person who is trying to learn more about cars and do the repairs, right?
Hmm.
But before we moved, actually, I decided to go to a technical school to learn how to be, well, not how to be, but to learn to be a mechanic. Because I
Hmm.
understood that I can't ask enough questions to the guys and not allow them to do their things, because it
Hmm.
means they're spending their time on explaining and teaching me on some basic stuff that I should have known if I would have had the education. And in Europe, we have a fantastic thing that 90% of the learning fee is paid by the European Union, and I had to pay only 10% of the education fee, and I could do the technical school in it was something like 2 years. So it's the basic things you learn in the technical school to do
Hmm.
the car repairs. And when you do the studies after that, you have to pass state exams. And those, my God, those were awful exams. They were so hard. Honestly, they were very, very hard. I was studying like crazy for them. And the exam was made out of, I think, 4 parts. So one is a test where you just check the right answers.
Hmm.
The second part is open questions where there are just questions and you have to reply fully. How would you do things? Or if there is an issue with that and that, how you can resolve it, or how did you understand where to look for the issue? Because sometimes, cars are showing issues, but that is not actually the issue. The
Correct.
reason
This is
for
this
the
is
problem.
this is music to my ears because the testing that I did recently, because I went to motorcycle repair our level one here in Canada to try and I'm trying to get my second license, and it's as just as bad as it was the first time I went through almost 20 years ago. Almost 20 years ago now. The testing here is substandard to that. It's very specific, but the teachers like to put obscure, very obscure stuff on exams, things that you would never see. We're talking about nuts and what is the torque specification limit on a quarter inch wide uh, nut, depending on thread pitch and so on. It's like that is something you look up in the manual. Like if you want to look up a torque
Yes.
specification, you look it up in the manual. These are not things that you commit to memory, right? I like
And you
the
don't have to know these things by heart. It's silly
no,
because
you
they
don't have to
should
know them. It's
teach.
that we teach. You should need to teach us how to use a service manual, right? You need to
Yes,
learn the
that's true.
fundamentals, and you need to know how to apply the fundamentals so that when you're in a situation like you're being tested on, Anna, you're being tested on how would you apply your knowledge to this situation. That is what we do in the shop.
And
It's take
yes,
your foundational knowledge and apply it.
and actually that's also the interesting part because so the third part of the exam was drawing because you have to read drawings. You have to know how to
That's
draw and you have to
awesome.
read drawings. And the final part was was the practical part. And the practical part, I was not actually doing something on the car, but on the car parts. So, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I had to assemble a cylinder head and explain what I'm doing. But the thing is that each of the students can use the car's manual, the technical manual. So, and our teachers, professors told us, be wise and use the manual because you have to prove that you know that what you are doing. And when you don't know, you open the manual and you look up for the things you don't know or you need to reassure because the commission who is taking the exam has to understand that you are using your brain and not just something you have memorized from the hundreds of pages.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'm
But
very happy that somewhere an institution who is trying to train mechanics has testing done well. This is music to my ears. Music to my ears, Anna. Thank you. It's
but
given
still.
me a resurgence of faith, as it were.
But I have to put a little rock in this field of flowers because there are still things that can be done better. And as I have went through this studying, I have done this education, I have had a meeting with the director of the school, and I have given them a couple of ideas how to improve the education to make people who are coming out from the school who have little or close to no experience in the real industry, in the field, so they can feel more comfortable, feel more confident, and they don't um, belittle themselves just because they have less experience than others. A little story from my practice time when I was doing practice in Toyota and Lexus official dealership in Riga. So
Mm-hmm.
when I came to the practice, I chose to be there. Well, I chose to go to that place because I'm owning a Lexus, and
Mm-hmm.
it was very interesting to find out more things about my car. And on the first day when I went there, they gave me a bucket and told me to go after. Hold on, I'm looking for the word again. Yeah, so
That's
they gave
okay.
me a bucket and told me to go and fetch in the nearest gas tank compression. And I looked at them like, do you
What?
understand what you're asking me? And in that point, the faces of all the guys who were there, they just changed, and they started. Some started laughing, and some started to be, a bit mad. Oh, this joke didn't go through with her. I was like
Oh,
seriously?
we're
Is
okay.
there?
Okay. This is where the language is
Yes.
hidden. Now I understand. They're sending you to fill up the blinker fluid or the headlight fluid
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
change the
Or,
muffler
or
bearing. They've given you a bucket to try and go get compression from the car.
yeah,
That.
yeah. Like, like seriously. But well, in any case, they tried to do a couple of those things with me more. It's like, did you change the winter tire air to summer? I'm like,
It's good to
what?
know. It's good to know that doesn't matter what country you're from. The mechanics are still telling the same jokes.
Yeah, and then I did not simply went with those crazy looks of like, do you want to have the summer air with the smell of raspberries or maybe blueberries? What smell do you want that air to have? So
That's awesome.
then I started to joke with them, but now I understand. So it was something like 6 years ago, something like that. I don't
Hmm.
remember frankly, but now I understand. So back then, I was trying my best or trying my hardest to prove to those guys, and not those guys, but all the guys in the automotive industry, that despite the fact that I'm a woman, that I can do and understand things, and I like working on cars, because I hadn't had the the experience that they were picking on me a lot. But I always and still get the feeling that when I tell somebody that I'm into cars, I like repairing them, and I understand a lot about them, and I'm still on my journey to learn more, they are always expecting that I would know everything as from the book, despite the
Mm.
fact that they don't know things themselves. So they are setting very high expectations on me. And fortunately, I'm not bothered by that anymore.
It takes, I
But
think that's a growing as a human being, not necessarily growing as a mechanic, but
yeah,
growing as a
that's true.
human being, understanding that there are those that seek to put you down in a means to try and lift themselves up. Anyone that tries to do that is not worth your time of day. They really aren't worth your time of day, because it's really not you
True.
against the world, it's you against you, and are you better than you yesterday? And it sounds
Yes,
like
that's
you're
true.
you're
True.
accomplishing that.
I'm well moving towards that a small step by step every day, because everything is not roses and violets every day. I have my bad days as well when I don't know what to do or I can't resolve an issue on a car the way I
Hmm.
should do, or I think I should do. But
Hmm.
in any case, I have quite a lot of good mechanics to whom I can ask questions and make discussions about things and, resolve the things I can't resolve. But
It's
let's move
and I
back.
think that's
Let's move
so
back a little
important to
bit.
have. Having relationships with other mechanics, being able to call on them, not necessarily just to figure out what's wrong with the car, but just be able to call on them to have that support is excellent. So we're
Uh,
so keep going,
yes.
keep going. I want to hear all of this. I want to hear all your
So
story.
I don't even know from where to continue now,
Well,
because I
you
want to
were just at
continue the one where we left about the moving
we were just at
to the
we
new
were just
place.
at Toyota Lexus.
So yeah,
You've just started at
after
Toyota
uh,
Lexus, and you're going from there.
okay, so I finished my practice there. In the end, they were very much satisfied with the work I have done, with the poor performance I had, taking into account that
Hmm?
I'm a newbie in that industry and things like that. And they wanted actually to keep me. But I told them, guys, thank you very much. I feel appreciated. However, I don't see myself there at the moment because, firstly, I was still doing my day job, and actually, I still am, but to that we can go later. And I'm well being in the garage with my husband and his friend, and I'm gaining my own experience, and I'm doing things at my own pace, which is very important for me. That I can do things at my own pace, because there are certain things that I understand technically, but I can't, move them around in my brain to implement outside of my brain. And it takes a little bit more time for me sometimes. And this is what I appreciate when I'm working on my own with my husband now, because there are things we can do very fast. It takes less time than a manual says it should take. And then again, there are things that I need more time to think of and to test and to understand. So I declined Lexus offer just because I didn't felt comfortable enough in my own skin in the things I know back then. And I decided that I need more freedom of having the time to think about the things and to understand what is going on, and not to have the pressure of the time limits of each car repair.
Hmm.
So I was still doing my day job and working in the garage. And then, well, our ways with our friend from the last garage separated. And we decided that, yes, we want to continue doing the car repairs, but we want to do it in the next level because we have gained a lot of experience. I have done more and more, how to say that, not teachings, but I went to additional courses to strengthen my knowledge, to learn something more. And now I know more and more and more. And we found a garage, or now you can't say that that's not a garage, it's a really big workshop. We are running our own workshop that it's 310 square meters, so you can do the
Oh,
conversions.
yeah. The
And
310, so we're quite a bit bigger than before.
yes,
It's like 3,500 square feet.
yes. But we are doing the things here, all the repairs, just two of us. And we have a great line of clients waiting for the spray spots when we are available to take them in and do the repairs. So while I'm doing the car repairs, actually
Hmm.
my husband has bought himself a CNC machine, and he is moving towards to become a CNC machine workshop. And I'm separating from him and doing my own things with the cars.
Cool.
Okay, you can ask me more questions because I think I have lost myself in the whole of this story because uh, am I not too chaotic in all of this?
No, it's all right. Where this is very
No.
good because not everyone comes into the industry the same way. Not everybody stays in the industry. Not everybody stays in the industry the same way. So, many stories that we've heard over the course of the past couple of months on this podcast. Most, not all, but most come into the industry similarly. Like they have a drive and a passion for cars, but not all come in the same way. It's family, or it's just a love of a poster, and it's like I'd like to do that or whatever. But it's fun to hear someone have a story much similar to my own. That my grandfather's the reason why I got into cars. I'm this little kid, tooling around. I was driving a technically. There is a picture of me somewhere. I don't know where it is, but there is a picture of me standing on the bench seat of an old Chevy a square body Chevy truck, plowing snow. So I'm standing on the seat. So I might be 3, right? I might be 3 years old, standing on the seat between my grandfather's legs, who's working the pedals, and I'm driving the snowplow. Okay, and it
All
never
right.
stopped. And it was Big Red. That was Big Red. So we fixed the hydraulics on the plow. We fixed the carburetor. We changed spark plugs, and we fixed this and we fixed that, and we built all kinds of stuff together. We built a lot of stuff together, and we fixed a lot of stuff together, and that grew into an actual love of cars because we fixed everything. Just, similar to you were building sheds and greenhouses and so on and so forth. But we fixed everything together, and I think there's a big component of that I enjoyed the fixing as much as I did the company of my grandfather. My son's different. My son's 9. He does not enjoy fixing stuff. He's hey dad, I want to help. I want to help. I want to help. And then he does it for about 10 seconds and realizes, nope, this is work. I'm out. I'm out of here. So he doesn't have that same for love for repair as I do. And it's interesting how it fosters that, some folks, you know maybe they have similar lives where they had a grandfather or a father, like us, where they fixed everything, and that love turned into contractor work. They build houses, or they build buildings or bridges, or maybe they become an engineer or a civil engineer, and they build things and they design things. Where you and we went to fixing stuff. We like fixing cars. We like making things
Yes.
work again, taking things apart and making it work. And you've taken that and you've continued on this path. And even if it's not something you do full time, you've been to school for it. You've taken testing
Yes.
for it. You've done the literal education for it. Even if you're not doing it full time, you're still doing it. You're doing it every day. You're doing it in a
Yes,
shop,
but
and
so at the moment, I'm not doing that for a full-time job, but I'm slowly paving my road towards it. So as I wrote to you in the email, so I
mhm.
have a passion for cars and fixing things, but I also insanely love people. People sometimes are dumbasses, but I still love them. And
Yes.
So combining these two things is that what I want to do is by helping people to understand their cars better, not to
Hmm.
do the maintenance things if they don't want to, but how to drive the car better so they can have more satisfaction from it, how to own a car and not have gray hairs because of owning that car. And
Hmm.
this is especially something I do for my girlfriends, my ladies, because I think this is the same in all around the world. So in the car industry, in the repair industry, there are a lot of workshops and garages that are ripping people off, that are not doing the things they are said that they would be doing, and they're charging still money for that. And this is actually part of my story. So when I had that Peugeot 106, and before we started doing the maintenance works on our own, I had the oil lamp coming on, I had the engine temperature lamp coming on, and all of the other lamps in the dashboard. And I went to the repair shop and asked them, what is going on? Can you please try me to understand what is happening and please fix this? Because I want to drive my car, not to leave it in the car shop or in whatever for doing the works. And they told me, oh, never mind, your little old car, because that is a Peugeot 106 from 1994. That's quite an old car. But that car has a computer in it. My God, a computer that is telling how much oil, how much gas, how much whatever air needs to be taken in for the engine to work properly. And let me tell you, it still has a carburetor. And well, the guys in that shop told me that, well, because the computer is faulty, your car might have any lights on. Never mind, just drive. What I did, because I was 18 years old, that was my first car. And by the way, I still have it, and I want to make restoration works on it.
Hmm.
But I was driving outside of the capital. I was going like 300 kilometers, so it's something like 500 miles or something like
Hmm.
that, away from my home. And something like a half an hour before I arrived to the place where I needed to be, I started funny noise. I started to hear funny noises from the engine. And I stopped in the nearest town, uh, in the nearest car shop, and told them what is the issue. And the mechanic immediately opened the bonnet or the hood. I don't know
Hmm.
which word is correctly used in Canada.
Car people across the world, I think, have acclimatized to the fact that a hood and bonnet are the same thing.
Okay. And he took out the thing, I don't know the name in English, excuse me, but the thing that shows the level of the oil in the engine.
We call them dipsticks over here.
Yeah, so he took out the dipstick and it was dry as a Saharan desert.
Desert. Wow.
So, yes, it had no oil in it. And the guy poured in oil and told me, well, I shouldn't, I do not suggest you to drive anywhere because I cannot tell how much longer the engine will be running. But I had no choice. I had to drive. So I went to the end station where I needed to be,
Hmm.
did the work there, and a couple of days later, when I went back Riga, the car died in the same spot where the guy poured the oil in. So in the same
Mm.
town, the car broke down. Well, that was a stressful situation because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to get home with the car or without the car. So I started doing the things I understand what to do and
Hmm.
how to do. And actually, I hitchhiked me and my car those kilometers back home. And when the car was back in Riga, it spent something like half a year in different shops and guys trying to understand what has happened, changing the engine, and trying to find the computer. So the computer was faulty, remember? The
Mm-hmm.
engine was changed, but the computer, they could not find it. And so one day, enough was enough. I went online, found the computer myself, went to bought it here in Latvia. I didn't even order it. I went to get it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Got the computer, clicked it on my car, so changed the old one to the used new one, and
Mm-hmm.
everything was running. So that's yeah. So this is a quick again. Sorry for my messy story, but this was long before I met my husband and long before I did the technical school. So
Mm-hmm.
I was 18 years old. I did the school when I was 23, 24, 25, something like that. So it was long time before that. And then I understood that, okay, I started to develop trust issues with the car services.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. You've been misdiagnosed or diagnosed properly in the first time around. They told you the computer wasn't working properly, and then you drove the
But in any
vehicle and the
case,
car
they
died.
didn't fix it. Yeah, they
They
didn't
didn't
fix
fix
it,
it.
and they told me
They
that
didn't
I can drive. And they didn't even tell me
exactly.
that I need to pay attention to the oil level. If I did pay attention to the oil level, this might not have happened. But the good thing, if that might not have happened, I wouldn't be here.
Exactly. So everything happens for
So,
a reason. So we're thankful that it did happen because now you're here.
yeah.
It fostered the
So,
journey.
yes, so now taking into account the experience I have had, the experience I have had multiple times in the car repair shops, and the attitude I got towards me because I'm a woman, I'm a tall woman, I like to wear skirts and high heels, and imagine me stepping out of the little tiny green colored Peugeot, and they're like, go like, we can rip this girl off, we can tell her
Mm-hmm.
whatever and she will pay for that. And that is actually basically what was happening back then. And now, with all the experience, with the technical school, with all my good mechanics around me, I know what I want to do. So that is teaching ladies, basically ladies, but the guys have told me that, hey, we need that too. So, how to take
Mm-hmm.
care of your car, how to drive it better, and how to enjoy your time with the car better. So, in case if you break down somewhere, you know whom to call or what help to seek for, or maybe you can do some things on your own. The last thing I had was my friend was driving his Mercedes, and for some reasons, and we know for what reasons,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that was the coolant pipe. Yes, so the coolant pipe was blown off from the engine. So we know that means that the pressure in the engine is higher than needed, but he was stopped on the side of the road and he needed to continue his journey. And we did this video call. He was
Mm-hmm.
showing me his engine bay, and I found out what actually had happened and asked him to put that hose back. So it's, of course, it's not a solution for, not, it's not a permanent solution. So, but he
Mm-hmm.
managed to get to the place where he needed to be and to get the proper help for the car he needed. So he didn't stay on the side of a road in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, and that's what you're. There's a wonderful human being, Christine Mitchell, that's here in Canada. That's doing has built a business. It's wonderful business educating customers in service, primarily in service, what it's what it's like to own a vehicle, what it's like to service a vehicle in the dealership, and it's that's right, the car lady Canada, know your car night. So she does know your now right recalling this is silly. Know your car night. Christine Mitchell. She has wonderful ladies, and they come into dealerships and they get the folks who have recently purchased new, and not necessarily just new vehicles, but they come into service, and she does classes for customers of those cars and teaches them things about how to fill your washer fluid, how to check your oil level, how to check your transmission level, what do you need to look for on your tires to make sure they're worn or wearing properly, checking your tire pressure. She does these things. She's built a business around doing this, and it's amazing the amount of information that she gives in such a short period of time. You are
You
effectively
know,
doing
this
the
is
exact same thing in Latvia.
yeah, and actually, this is very interesting because I have never heard of this lady, but I will take a close look in her webpage, which I have opened already. But well, I will do my research later. But
Mm-hmm.
what you are explaining now and telling me about her, this is the exact thing I actually want to do as well. And I find
She's
that,
she's been in business a long time. I'm trying to
well, I
remember.
don't know her. I don't know
Nope.
her.
I
And
I, I will.
this is
She's been doing
interesting.
it for 26 years. I think it's since like
All
1997.
right.
She's been
All
doing it a long time.
right.
She's very good at it. She's a wonderful, wonderful human being. I will. We need to get you two connected. We need to get you two
Yes,
connected for sure.
please.
For
Yes,
sure.
please. This is interesting. This is very, very interesting. And the more I am in this industry, actually, and now
Hmm.
since I have lost the need to prove myself to the guys, I have opened my eyes to the ladies, and I see the way I can help them and how much use they can have of me. Because, like I said, I had this awful experience with the car shops previously when I was a young adult, and I want to spare this experience to the ladies and people, well, ladies and guys I know who are owning a car. And yes, wow! If you have something more like this, you can share with me because, well, she looks amazing. And I want to
Yes,
be
she
as
is.
amazing as her, but just in
And
my
I
own
think you
way, of
already
course.
are. I think you already are, and I appreciate that very much. So, let's. That's a very detailed story and how you've began in the industry, how you've been in the industry, and how you're looking forward to continuing to be in the industry in a way that drives your purpose to try and help folks feel more confident, feel safe, and get the most value of their experience owning a car. That's
So, okay,
really
if you
awesome.
understood this, it means that I'm not that chaotic as I thought I am.
No, not at all. Not at all. The only thing is learning English a little bit better, but your English is a lot better than many mechanics I have heard and or work with in the past, so it has not
Okay,
is not
thank
a
you.
barrier for I think any of us.
Well, okay, the thing is, I have to learn all the car parts in English then.
That might be a challenge. That might be a challenge for you. So I guess the only other question that I have for you, Anna, is your
Yeah.
one piece of advice. What's
Mhm.
one piece of advice that you would give mechanics out there to help them be happier?
So actually, when I read this question that you sent to me in the email, I spent quite a lot of time thinking about it because this also made me think about my life and what I am doing so that I don't feel overwhelmed or over the moon tired um, in this industry and combined with the paid job I have during the day. So a little bit more of information of the background so I can
Mm-hmm.
step right into the advice. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I did a degree in economics before the technical school, and I was working in the poultry industry. And actually, I still am working in the poultry industry because I'm running the association for poultry and egg producers of Latvia, and I'm still working there because they are not willing to let me go. So I'm still in service to achieve their own things, and they're using my energy and my charm and whatever they are thinking of using to achieve the things so the industry can become better in Latvia. But also having this other job, I believe that is the thing why I am not burning out in the automotive industry. So my brain can switch to different issues to be tackled.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when I'm doing the things so when I'm working for the day job, let's say it,
Mm-hmm.
I have to tackle the things I would never ever tackle in the garage. And of course, that is still stressful, still a lot of things that I can't control, but I have to deal with. And when I collect the stress over there, and when I come to the garage, and I have to, okay, when I have to do gently something, that's
Mm-hmm.
an issue. But if I have a bearing that is not coming off, or
Oh
some
yes.
other parts that are
Oh
not coming
yes.
off, taking the big hammer.
The
So that is
multi-angles
actually helping.
persuasion device.
Yes, yes. So the workshop is helping to stabilize my nervous system from the day job, and my day job is helping me to stabilize my nervous system from the workshop.
That's
Because
an
those
interesting thought
those
process.
because those things are well, a normal human being, actually, even the people I get to know now, they don't understand how can I do both of these things, but they are so different that it's totally okay to combine them. And one thing is asking only for my mental strength, and the other thing is asking for mental and more of a physical strength.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice for the mechanics working in the industry not to burn out is to not to take your workshop home, and not to take your home to the workshop, and find some other things that make spark your eyes or lift your spirit somewhere in a nice place outside of the workshop, because I know how it is. I do bring a lot of workshop home, but I do it because we do it together with my husband. So it's a
Mm.
family business now. And still, when it's too much of a workshop in home, we are just saying to each other, okay, let's stop. Enough is enough. Let's drive somewhere with no aim. I don't know, let's drive to the beach, have a cocktail, have a beer, have a dinner or something. Let's cut the cars and workshop out of our lives for at least a day. And this has to
Mm-hmm.
happen on a regular basis. So you have to find other things that bring joy in your life. And if you say that you don't have time for that, it's not about time, it's about priorities. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. I can say from my own experience, it's true. So please do, guys. I love mechanics a lot, and I believe that the world is actually holding on our shoulders. And we need to take care of ourselves in order to take care of the cars and the people who are owning those cars. And we have to be in the state of resources. Is that correct to say that in English? In the state of resources? Do you understand what I mean?
I think it translates. You have to be in a state where you have the capacity and the energy to be able to give yourself to whatever it is that you are doing. If you do not have the
Yes.
energy yourself for yourself, you cannot
Yes.
provide for those around you. I like to use the
Absolutely.
airplane analogy. The airplane analogy is perfect where, if in the event of a crash or potential crash, because cabin depressurizes, you need to help yourself to oxygen first. If you do not help yourself to oxygen first, you cannot help others. And that,
Totally.
from a purely self-care point of view, matters. If you are not taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of others. That is
True.
why fundamentally I started Wrench Turners online and what I have done. We need to find ways to help mechanics take care of themselves take care of the environment around them so that they can be the best versions of themselves, so that they can be the best mechanic.
That's
That
true. And sometimes, what I find valuable for me is that, for example, if I have a very close deadline for working on a car, and like I mentioned before, sometimes I need time to process things and to find a better solution. What I do is, I believe this is a ladies' thing, but the guys try this out. I start making order in things or start cleaning some things. For example, last week I cleaned all the branches, cleaned all the instruments we have, so my brain can have a break from the issue that needs to be solved. And meanwhile, the things around me are getting clean, shiny, and
mm-hmm.
nice. So the environment is changing. The environment is getting nicer. And my eyes after that see it. And even if my conscious mind does not understand that the place is nicer because it's clean, subconscious mind understands that.
Mm-hmm.
And the environment really influences the human being.
It, I've used that tactic myself, and I've coached that tactic as well. When you get into a
Perfect.
situation where you are um, in a place where you cannot figure out the answer, you're stumped, you're frustrated, you're angry. Maybe you're not getting the help you need. Maybe you happen to be alone in the shop at that time of day. Everybody's gone for lunch, and you're sticking around and trying to figure out something, diagnose something, whatever. One of the keys, the first thing always is to breathe. If you're not taking a moment, it's 3 to 5 minutes completely focused on breathing should be number one. Number two is coming up with coping strategies to get your brain off the current problem, because thinking about the
Exactly.
same thing over and over again, definition of insanity. You're trying to come up with a different response to the same action. You need to come up with a different process. You need to come up with a different thought process. You need to come up with a different idea. You need to change your track in order to allow your subconscious mind to take over and think for you. So
True.
possibly putting away your tools. And why I say always clean your toys before you put them away. The concept is, when you do something incredibly monotonous but requires attention to detail, you have to focus on that thing. So don't just put your tools away. Pick up a tool, clean that tool intricately, and then put that tool away exactly where it goes. Don't take a handful of tools and clean them sloppily and try and put them away. Clean one socket and put it away. Clean another socket and put it away. Clean your ratchet intricately and put it away. Clean your ratchet and lubricate said ratchet and put it away. That way your brain has to focus on that task. Very, very specific and very specifically detail oriented. And then all of a sudden your subconscious can start doing other things, right? You finish putting the tools away, and now you haven't had the opportunity to muster yourself on the challenge that is behind you in the car that's behind you. If you can do that now, it's like, okay, time to breathe. You've had a couple of minutes of breathing. You've put away, you've done something for you to try and clear your head, because Lord knows you probably had every tool out, every diagnostic tool out, every wrench, ratchet, and pull tool and hammer that you had out was probably on your tool cart. Everything's away, everything's
Explosion
clean,
of
everything's
tools.
the explosion of tools that happens. Now you have the ability to go to the tool that you need to do your next step, right? Maybe go back to the diagnostic tree and reread. Now that you have a clear mind, now that you're breathing properly, now that you have a clear mind and breathing properly, you can go back to the diagnostic tree and reread the last step that you did. And maybe then you'll get,
Then it
oh,
clicks.
I don't need to do this. I need to go over here and do that, whatever it happens to be. Allow yourself to do
True.
that. So
True.
it's
So basically, what you just described is actually the same thing as my, well, paid job and the workshop.
mm-hmm,
They're switching each other, and so my brain has to switch and think in different categories. and have the time to breathe.
Hmm. It's incredible what breath control can do for you. I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago. And there's a couple of different breathing styles to try depending on your situation. I've been doing them for a year, but I'm still not consistent enough with it for it to be something I would say do a breath control exercise this way. It will do this for you. I'm not even close to being there yet. But the breath control thing, the one that has helped me the most is sleep. And I find
Yes,
that
absolutely.
if I don't get a good night's sleep, and I'm a horrible sleeper as it is, but if I don't get a good night's sleep, the rest of the day is a write off. And the thing that has helped me almost as much as hitting marijuana to help me sleep is breath control. So going to bed and doing my 4-3-2, breathe in for 4, hold for 3, let out for 2, and repeating this so that it's the only thing that I am thinking about is breathing going to bed. I am out. If I can focus on that for 5 minutes, I am out. And if I can do the same thing during the day, if I get in a challenging situation, if the thing that I can do is stop and do that, it's the only thing I think about. Anxiety comes down, my heart rate comes down, everything just becomes the focus of the breathing. It's amazing what just simple oxygen can do for your body.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And actually, when you mentioned this, another thing that I do in order to take care of myself, and I understand that my body needs it, is a lot of mechanics, and including me. A couple of months ago, I thought I do a lot of exercise or of physical work in the workshop, so I don't need any more exercises outside of the workshop. And that is a lie. So what I do is every day, at least for 15 minutes, and in the best way, it's half an hour or 40 minutes, I do Pilates.
Mm-hmm.
So it's stretching out the muscles that I'm using in the workshop, but I'm using them to carry, to hit, they're contracting all the time. But what yoga, Pilates, and things like that, stretching, do is you stretch out the muscles that are not used to being stretched. And
Mm-hmm.
this is bringing a lot of relief to the physical body. At the first, it's definitely going to be
Yep, you're right.
discomfortable.
Discomfortable. Yep.
Yes,
It's causing
discomfort.
you discomfort.
Yeah, it will cause discomfort,
Mm-hmm.
but this is some things you need to do. So you have to take care of yourself. If it's a good night's sleep, if it's exercising outside of workshop, if it's eating better and skipping junk food, if it's skipping beer or maybe not skipping beer, but having
Now,
that
now, now,
glass
now,
of
now,
beer,
now,
not being
skipping the
restricting
beer. Don't
yourself.
be skip. I don't know if I can skip the beer.
But I don't know. I don't know. It depends. For example, I know guys who are restricting themselves of a lot of things they would like to enjoy, but you have to allow yourself at least once per some period of time to enjoy that thing you have not been allowing yourself to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about beer or whatever. For
Mm-hmm.
some, it might be, I don't know, a piece of cake or going to the movies and having a popcorn with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Doing it once in a
allowing,
while versus doing it regularly.
yes, allow yourself to do something you really need or you really want to, but it's not going to be beneficiary for you on a everyday basis.
And
But if
I
you
think that's
want
the
to
big
do
key
it,
there is you
do
need to be
it.
doing stuff that benefits yourself. You need to be doing the things that benefit you every day. And whilst those things can be hard and they can be sacrifices for you to be able to do that, you also have to think about, okay, am I going to have a beer? Am I going to have a quarter of a cake? My mother-in-law just made birthday cake yesterday. It was my father-in-law's birthday. And I probably shouldn't have had the second slice, but I haven't had cake in a while. So allow myself to do that. But at the same time, I got to remember, it's like, okay, if I'm having that big a slice of cake yesterday, I probably shouldn't have any sweets today. I probably should go, the next couple of days without any sugar in my diet to keep myself above board as best as I possibly can, to keep myself present in the moments I need to be present for. And that's becoming a
And
thing.
here
Maybe
we
it's
come
just
to the consciousness.
yeah.
Here we come
You
to
bring
the
it.
consciousness. You have to understand, yes.
Yeah. And I think that's leaving the conversation on cake is probably a good idea, because I think that's leaving any conversation talking about cake is probably a good way to go. So, and I really
Yeah,
appreciate your
absolutely.
time. I really appreciate your
Thank you.
experience and your story. I really do, and I hope that there's a lot of folks out there that glean as much from this as I have. Oh no! That's the end of another episode, Wrenches. But there's going to be another one next week, so don't you worry. I really hope that you enjoy and subscribe to the Wrench Turners podcast. And thank you, Anna, for taking the time out of your day, whichever hour of the day that happens to be, because I've forgotten what the time shift is. I appreciate you for spending some time with us and sharing your experience and your history in the automotive industry with us. As usual, a quote before we end the show this week. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I lived through this. I can take the next thing that comes along. Eleanor Roosevelt. Remember, folks, negative pushes, positive pulls, and always clean your toys before you put them away.